Hello and welcome back to Clockwork Dandy Noodles. We are approaching the end of the season and it's upon us. The schedule is now up on the channel, so you can officially go and see the schedule. That will have replaced the pinned video on my main page. If you are subscribed, it won't play immediately, so you guys do have to give that a little knock. If it plays immediately, it means you are not subscribed, so give it a consideration. Maybe hit that little subscribe button, because there are going to be 4 new animes taking the place of the ones airing this season on the channel. Of course, To Your Eternity is continuing because there are 20 episodes of this amazing series. I love To Your Eternity to pieces, but go and check out as well the video where I crown my top 3 anime of this season. Did To Your Eternity make that list? Interesting stuff, guys. But yes, we are approaching the end of the season, so things are about to do some changing, a bit of switcheroo. Go and check out the schedule as well, because I ask a question to you guys to select what game I'm going to replace Devil May Cry 5 with when it ends, so you get to pick what the content is next. And there is a Discord channel for you guys to lurk and get any information on delays that may be heading out on the channel. Let's talk about episode 11. I feel like we've crossed the barrier as well, so this is the halfway point for the series. Exciting stuff, but it does mean we're now on the rundown. We've got 9 episodes now to see where we're going to be dropped off. But I think this isn't going to be an anime which drops us off and never intends to come back, because there seems to be a lot of information, a lot of manga out there that they can draw upon. So either they're going to wrap it up very, very, very well, which I'm looking forward to if they can wrap it up, or they're going to leave it so we're going to maybe come back to the world at some point. I would be happy with both. So I did a little bit of research. So the first sequence where Rin and Fushi are talking, I was very curious to see how old Fushi was. However, this is an impossible question to answer just because he's an orb. And it also depends on what form he's in, because whenever he's March, he's about 8. But doing some digging around, and I may have spoiled something for myself, ouch, but it was worth it, I have discovered how old Gugu is. So Gugu is the one I'm going to take roughly to give us an idea of how old Fushi could be. So Gugu initially when we meet him is 14, which means now with our 4-year jump, he is 18. And Fushi appearing to be roughly around that age. However, Gugu does say younger brother, but not quite as easy as that. But let's take it to be about 18. And indeed, I did think Fushi looked a lot older than Rin, and so did Gugu. I did say Rin was the only one who didn't actually age up last episode. I think this might be why. She's only just about to hit 16. Fushi definitely looks a lot more older now, but we are told by our narrator that if Fushi doesn't transform into a different form, if he's staying to the one form and doesn't die during that period, his body will age up according to the time that he has skipped, which is a very interesting technique. And I'm also happy they addressed this, because some animes would probably gloss over the fact that, he's starting to age up and not talk about the fact that he's also an orb which is immortal. But he hasn't transformed into anything in 4 years, which I do think might be a big hindrance to him. But I get it. Fushi wants to experience life as it is, and he hasn't transformed anytime since. The narrator actually helps us bridge the gap quite nicely. So the narrator comes in, he's the one who initially talks us through it. He tells us that humans lead mundane lives where sometimes there's days when nothing happens. But during that time period, Fushi has learned little upon little about the world that he's in, through pain as well, always through pain. That's what we seem to learn the most through, is the dog bite, the hot steam, hitting a hot pan, all things that Fushi will learn from and never make that mistake again. But hearing Fushi and his voice actor finally being quite fluent at speech is a blessing, because the voice actor is pretty new to the world of voice acting. He's only really got a few roles out there. He is Patrick from Shadow's House, another anime that I absolutely adore to pieces. So it's nice to hear the voice actor getting some time to finally shine and show us his acting capabilities. Rin starting to ask about Gugu was always a very positive sign for me, because she's actually thinking about giving him gifts despite the fact that it is her birthday. At this point though, the plot starts to roll and the narrator finally takes the back seat once more and the story continues. But I do love the fact that we can use the narrator whenever we need to, just to jump a gap or at least help us understand what we've missed. So we don't actually have to sit through those 4 years. We can understand that not a lot happened. Fushi learnt through just mundane little things of stabbing himself with a needle or something and what not to do. But we haven't really missed much. So the narrator kicking us back into the story. But it does seem that Rin's taken interest in Gugu is going to definitely blossom this episode, but it might be a fateful blossom. But we are told that Rin's forced marriage is still going ahead. So sadly, even though it seemed that she went home and she finally bridged things up with her family, perhaps, she didn't get out of the forced marriage thing. That is still going to happen. But it does seem that there might be an unspoken love between Rin and Gugu, who are just not able to communicate to one another until the end, where she tries and all hell breaks loose. But it's great just to see this, and she sews him a crayfish. It is absolutely adorable. I love it. I actually have a hand-sewn plush of a sea cucumber, a sea slug. I like sea slugs, and someone made me one. It is adorable. Rin tells Fushi that she doesn't want to get married and she's hoping to find a boyfriend, where there's the question that would she like to have Gugu as a partner, which I think is a yes. I think she just seems very unaware of her feelings. So she's definitely taken that interest, but she doesn't seem to be fully 100% aware until the end of how she actually really feels. Gugu's surprise visit doesn't actually go anywhere, so I'm very shocked that this didn't turn out to be more, but perhaps the deadbeat brother might come back, hopefully. Gugu's deadbeat brother pays a visit, and the music at this point is actually really, really nice. It feels very exotic. It feels like a different country completely. It feels like we're using a Spanish acoustic guitar. I like it. I think it feels really nice. The good thing about the music in this anime is it's always handled very, very well. Gugu's brother doesn't really apologise. He says one time, he says sorry, but it's not really heartfelt. But he never really truly just goes, look, I am so sorry. He never says it like that. And he's still clinging to the goal that I want to make that mansion with you without really apologising, without actually realising what damage you have done. It doesn't feel like he's actually realising how much of an idiot he really has. And I don't also trust him. For some reason, I really don't trust the brother. But the positive I can take is he hasn't sold the ring. So he could have sold that ring, made money, and his issues would have been solved. He chooses not to. He actually chooses not to sell it. And we do see that he has managed to turn his life around. He's now in charge of a few people and he sells tools. So he is trying to go straight, go honest. And the fact that he held on to it as well, that is a redeeming quality. So I have to congratulate him for that, because it could have been easy just to sell something that's worth that much money. But Gugu declines. He ends up telling him that he's got all he ever needed. Everything from that tragedy of being abandoned actually brought him a family. It brought him a really drunken dad who is fun and has stupid antics at times, but even in this episode, we get to see him acting like a bit of a real dad, and he's found value in his life. His real blood family let him down, but he's found a family which aren't related by blood, but they're related by bonds. Rin starts to remember this episode, which is quite nice because of seeing the ring. She starts to remember the face of Gugu, the actual face of the boy who isn't hidden by a mask, the young boy that she often would admire, or she would say, isn't that kind of strange that he's working? But then we see the caretaker. I think I've given 2 sets of kudos to the caretaker now. One for trying to save March, the child on the floor, when we have March literally thrown at her. And now even for this, where she says it's admirable, he's helping out. I kind of had to go, kudos to this lady. But she remembers old feelings, how she felt, and the past. And remembering the past kind of starts her on a bit of a remembering train this episode. And the fact that she does remember the true face of Gugu and what he actually looks like. When she tries to force the ring upon Gugu's finger, the swearing finger. Why are you making him swear to the audience? Come on, we don't need to have him swearing at us. But it is hilariously funny trying to shove it on his finger. It's the wrong finger for marriage, my dear. But I like it. It's hilariously funny, and there was no way it was going to fit. But that's how desperate she is to try and make him her partner. She's trying to put a ring on it, but sadly, this doesn't go where it should have, and she tries to get Gugu to ask her, and she's quite forceful about it. She's like, come on, this is your chance. You can hit on me. Make the move. He kind of feigns remembering, and because of how embarrassed he is, he also just goes, oh, I don't remember anything, which is half true, because Boozman does say it's because you were drunk. It's a bit of Dutch courage. He doesn't remember anything, but at the same time, he knows how he feels about her. But sadly, he loses the perfect chance. A chance like, if he'd have said it right here, right now, you may not have ended up in a bad situation right at the end of the episode. The new helmet for battle looks amazing. It's a level up. This is definitely plus 10 firepower here. but he really is becoming that fire-breathing lizard we see at the start. However, with the way the episode ends, we may not get to see it in action. The Bruce Man moment where he starts to cry and he tells him, you're a good kid, it's such a red flag. This was the biggest red flag for me, the whole point. It's like, why are you being so nice? Are you going to die? Or are you predicting something bad is going to happen, which does happen in the end? But it's a point where he's acting like a real dad to a son who may not be related to him, but he even says, I want to die when Gugu has moved out, he's married, he's actually happy, and he's settled down and done the whole grown-up thing. Only then is when he really wants to die. So he can die happy knowing that Gugu has made it in the world. But let's switch over some different music to show us a new version of the world that we're not really used to. A whole different world in Rin's mansion, the luxury, the money, the complete vast array of food as well. This is all expressing to us as well, the viewer, giving us some visual keys about the world that we live in. The world that we live in is abundant. The world that we live in has many different things to offer, and there are people in this world who are living in a completely different situation from the poor boy who had to try and earn some money to try and stop himself starving. Rin's favourite colour is purple, so Gugu initially giving her this flower would have been perfect. However, this is the flower, the fateful flower that she picked that day where she ended up getting that scratch, which turns out to be a bit more of a bittersweet memory because it's nightmare at the same time. It reminds her of that day, but it's also bittersweet and sweet because it's the first gift that Gugu's ever given to her, and she has a crush on him. She totally likes him, and she's just trying to come to terms with how she feels, which we see at the end finally happening. It's sad because the moment is interrupted by Rin finally meeting the man that she used to be betrothed to, who does seem like a pretty decent guy from what we really kind of see, but it's just painful knowing that she really wants to be with somebody else. Fushi's one-liner about winning at life is absolutely adorable, even if it's not an original line. He does say, it's not from me, I didn't think it up on the spot. It's nice because it actually fits as well, because Fushi has to win at life. He has to win these battles to get what he wants, and he is on this mission, not that he kind of remembers, to preserve the world that you are in. And you're going to have to do that by winning at something. Gugu misremembering the accident, which I think he does on purpose. And as well, he did maybe also have such a traumatic event. I would have not blamed him if he couldn't remember the advice, but he does this on purpose because he knows how Rin feels, because last time he mentioned the accident, Rin was actually getting angry. So Rin was angry about the guy who ended up saving her, because obviously that led her down the road of getting her father being more clamping down. So her father thought somebody was out to get him. So the entire accident was more about him than her. So that accident is bittersweet to her for those memories. But it's more just irony as well when we see Rin hearing the story told from a bit more of a third person. So, I saved this person without giving a mention of who this person is. So Gugu recites the entire event, but without putting in those words, which would give us that 100%, oh yeah, by the way, it's you. So he does it in a way that he gives her all the truth. This is all the truth there. I saved somebody. I had a wood on my face, blah, blah, blah. I sustained a really heavy injury. And then he even says, but this person did make it. They had a tiny scratch. And then it's when we hear the fact that she says, but that's nothing compared to the injury you sustained. This is such a big full circle, because initially that's exactly what he told her and she lashed out at him. But now hearing it from a different point of view, she realizes that that person who was making a big fuss over a tiny scratch was nothing compared to the injuries that poor Gugu sustained, where he ends up losing his entire face. This is character development. It's really, really nice. I think the credits start to roll here. I'm not quite sure. If anyone can read this and this isn't the credits, do put it down below and I'll can pin you, because I have learnt how to pin. It's my new favourite thing. I like pinning nice comments. If there's any nice comments on videos, I sometimes might pin them. But if you can read this and it's not credits, do let me know. I think it might just be the credits rolling at this point though, where Rin finally remembers and puts 2 and 2 together about who saved her that day. It is a fantastic, beautiful moment, a crescendo. The crescendo is used to bring the symbolism, the realism. This is the realization, the truth, the clarity, whole full circle shebang. If the next thing didn't happen, it would have been the perfect moment for her to go, I love you, and go into the, maybe kiss the mask at the most anyway. But the music, it foreshadows us, it tricks us into thinking this is a great moment, this is going to end well. Wow, just that ending. What are the odds that there is literally an unknown force trying to separate you from the person you love? This is the act of God right here. Gugu is literally torn away from Rin when she's about to confess. I definitely think she's about to confess something at this point. And we see a literal divide as he falls down, and he once again shoves her out the way to protect her. Ending on the realization that the shadow people are back again. Not really want to call them boob people, because as I said last time, knockers in the UK is just slang for boobs. So the boobs are back, my friends. But yes, an absolutely fantastic episode. I would have been happy if they broke it here and then said we're not releasing for a week until the next, to line us back up with the next season. They might still do that, they might not. But it seems that we are just continuing through until the next season now. But I would have happily had that as a bit of a cliffhanger. That's the perfect place to just cut it. But a fantastic episode, and it's a nicely handled time skip. Time skips in animes can be a bit hit and miss. Sometimes they feel okay, you need the time skip. Sometimes they feel forced. This has been handled in a nice way. There wasn't much to talk about for 4 years, but again, they've still learnt things over those 4 years. Seeing the full cycle with Rin and Gugu. This is mainly a Rin and Gugu episode about these two coming to terms with how they feel. Rin in particular because she's coming of age and she realises who she actually probably loves, and the idea of everyone talking about love this episode. One of those episodes where it's nice to focus on the side characters for a little bit. Fushi can take a bit of a backseat until the very end where we see the narrator appearing before him, because I think next week, Fushi has to be kicked into action to do something to save his brother. So I think it's Fushi's turn to save his brother back. Can he save Gugu in time? I also predict that it's not the last of his real bloodline brother. Perhaps he's going to appear. Perhaps he'll find him on the beach. Who knows? I do think at some point he might appear. But it does seem like this arc is definitely bigger than the March arc, and I'm hoping that it continues, because I keep trying to look for the negatives, and I'm hoping that him literally falling off a cliff is a bit too obvious for To Your Eternity, and they're not going to end it just like that, so something might happen. But I am super excited. This is one of my favourite animes to break down. I love it to bits. So thank you guys so much for tuning in weekly. I'm not leaving you guys because I'm continuing this breakdown into the next season. So I don't get to say a thank you like I do with the other series. But every time you guys do comment and you guys watch my videos, it really does mean a lot to me. So thank you so much. I hope you are staying safe. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.